Hello. Hello, beautiful ones. My resilient fam. Welcome to day four of 5. Oh my God, can you believe it? Day 4 of 5. This week has flown by. Today we're talking about softening and community. Oh, such tender, literally tender, beautiful topics. I'm so excited. Who is here with me? Let me know. Once you've arrived, say hello in the comments. I would love to interact with you. Hi, precious ones. Hi, you found us. Let me know you're here. I'm gonna turn my heat off real quick while we're saying hello in the comments. Sorry about that. Hi Jennifer, hi Lacey, hi Micah. I am so cozy. That's one reason I could turn off my heat because I got my sweater on. I'm staying cozy today. It's actually warmed up here in Albuquerque a little bit. Hasn't been too bad, but I love fall fashion. I can't give it up. How are we doing? How was day 4? I would love to hear. Oh, probably the hardest day for me, I'm gonna be honest, in terms of the themes of resilience. Softening is the one that has taken me the longest to, I don't know, get comfortable with. Is that the goal? Or just graft onto my brain and my nervous system and my body and my heart. And it's funny because I'm a pretty soft, flowy person, but it's the community piece. It's the asking for help. Really, really hard. And it's ironic because I'm a coach. I do this for a living. People have always come to me for advice, for space holding, for these things. And then I turn around and struggle with admitting when I need help. And so even just admitting that is hard. Embracing my own vulnerabilities, embracing my own shortcomings or weaknesses, in addition to the places where, guess what, I'm human, I have needs, which we talked about yesterday. Really, really challenging. And I might get a little emotional because community building is so tender for me, and it's something that I'm still in the process of. And I don't know that I'll ever figure it out, but I'm gonna die trying. So I've avoided doing sermons and talks on my deep, deep longing for the village and for community until now. So you're witnessing it live, raw, all of the things. Might get a little emotional. So, and by the way, I'm also live on Instagram. Hi, Emily. So if anything drops out, you can find me there. Okay. All right. So, softening. Our natural tendency is to harden, right? To tighten, to contract, to brace, to protect. We literally take on this shape. We literally curl our shoulders, clench our shoulders, protect our heart when we are met with a threat. Threat can be real or perceived. So it could be just the stress of modern life. It could be completely subconscious. But we go into this turtle shell, you can think of it as a turtle shell, of protecting our hearts. And I want you to become aware of when you're doing this in your own life. And you'll start to notice, I can reverse engineer this. I can open my heart and then notice how that affects my mood, how that affects my relationality to others, to myself, to my experience. That's something I want you to walk away with tonight. So let's all practice that. Shoulders back. I'm pretty unskilled at remembering this. So I'm trying to further ingrain it. I don't know what's going on with my webcam. I think it's broken. I'm sorry about the constant focusing and refocusing. I don't know how to fix that. All right, so softening. So we can rewire our brains to have a different impulse, to relax, to accept and be present with, as I said, our own experience. Micah says, same, a healer who has trouble asking for the same thing. I think it's related to my need to feel competent and like an expert. Oh, yes, Micah, 100%, absolutely. And I know you're a type 5. I'm going to call you out on it. Yes, the expertise, which it's ironic because in my coaching lineage, we're supposed to be really upfront, like I'm not the expert. You're the expert in your life. But it gets wired in there by culture anyway, and by so many coaches co-opting the term and calling themselves experts and saying, I have all the answers, I have everything you need. You don't have to do any work. That's not the kind of coaching I do. Sometimes, unfortunately for me and my clients, it can make things hard. But hard is safe and okay. Difficult, we can do hard things. So let's drop in and soften. Hello, Claire, welcome. We're going to, oh, I forgot to light the candle. Y'all, I'm all over the place. I just got off a client call like 1 minute before this training, but I'm happy to be with you all. I'm gonna light a candle. Join me if you wish to hold the space for our time together. Precious, sacred time. If you wish to join me, as long as we are gathered, my intention is that we are softening and weaving genuine belonging. Welcome, Marcia. So this is not a Zoom call. There will not be a display of other spaces. So you get to sit back and relax and just experience this live training and type in the chat, just like you're doing. Good job. I'm glad you're here. All right, so let's drop into the body. Your body is a safe space. Closing the eyes if it feels okay. Take a deep breath in and out. Feel your feet flat on the floor, contacting Mother Earth, grounding down through the legs, the seat, the back, the spine, drawing up Mother Earth energy of safety, presence, protection. Take a deep breath in and let it go. Good. We're going to practice a little bit of metta, loving kindness, starting with your own precious heart. Bring a hand to the heart, shoulders back. You can imagine breathing in and out of the heart as if it were a lung. Feeling the rise and fall of your chest. Softening this entire heart space from the upper back through to the center of your heart, collarbones. What does a soft heart feel like? tender heart. Perhaps noticing a melting away of any armor that you've put around it throughout the day, throughout your life. If any emotion wells up in this tender interaction, that's okay. Allow your soft heart to be your compass. Revealing to you your deepest longings. Trust your heart. Trust the desires of your heart. Where they belong. And they're here to show you the way. If there are some words you need to say to your heart, you may do so now. Noticing the heart's response. Take another deep breath in. And let it go. Gently, slowly return to our circle, our virtual circle. What was that like for you? I got my eyes filled with tears when I was imagining the armor melting from my heart. I could feel it. Even when I show up in these live meditations, there's a desire, and I have to fight it every time. A desire to be perfect and a desire to harden my heart. And in my business, I'm really trying to show up authentically every time. It's not easy. So I felt this tender emotion well up, and the words that I needed to say to myself were just, I love you. I love you. I definitely feel that soft heart right now. Alright. So, we're going to talk today about how and why we harden our hearts, and from a sort of physiological perspective and from a cultural perspective, and how we can rewire ourselves to see softening as a more wise response, which includes asking for help, which includes commanding community, speaking it into existence, and what I call manifesting it. Micah, I noticed some fear. I made the choice to soften around it and arrange myself to open up more space for it and hold it energetically. Congratulations, you made the choice. It is a choice. Well done, Micah. Tara Brock says, find your edge and soften. And do that perpetually. Because through this practice, we can expand our comfort zone. But if we really want to expand it, we have to meet our edge and we have to soften. And that's what you're doing every time you practice self-compassion or metta, loving kindness. Bringing the hand to the heart, bringing awareness inside the body, bringing awareness to the thought patterns, making the U-turn of self-compassion. We're doing it. We're doing it together. What an honor. So, yeah, I would love to hear from today's homework if anyone had a chance to write new community agreements. We wrote new rules yesterday, and today we wrote new community agreements. Community agreements are a beautiful way to begin any gathering, any circle, any Zoom call, any Facebook group, even like a text thread. I wish we could just get some community agreements going about what is and isn't okay. Because if we don't speak them and set them, we're actually have a bunch of unconscious and unwritten rules and expectations. But guess what? So does everyone else. And when they don't align, we suffer and we get confused and we judge and we blame. But it's not their fault. They just haven't spoken their social contract aloud. But we have a choice. We have a choice. I would love to hear some of yours. I'll share some of mine just off the top of my head. I asked myself a couple of years ago, what does authentic relationship really look like for me? What does being in relationship really look like for me? Like really, really, really. And a huge one that rose to the surface was I want people to be upfront about how much space they have to hold for me and how much space they need held by me. I want to know, are you asking my advice or are you asking for my witnessing? Because those are two different things. May we all be skilled at active listening and advice giving, but may we have the wisdom to know when one is being asked for or the other. And sometimes it's like we shouldn't even be left to have to make that choice. People need to be upfront. And guess what? That means I have to be upfront because this is all a two-way street. So any of you that are in kind of my inner circle, family and friends, know that I've gotten a lot more clear about that in my recent years on my journey as a coach. Because as a coach, I have to be clear about it. When I have a universal nudge to share advice with someone, I ask them, can I share this with you? And they can say no, and that's okay. This all comes back to my personal community agreements. I also want people to feel empowered to call me out and call me on my bullshit. And I hope that it goes both ways. I really do, and that's the hardest part of community for me, for many. So what are yours? I would love to hear. Community agreements. So important. And I don't really want to jump off this bandwagon too quick. So some key skills, we'll start here. Key skills in weaving authentic community include knowing the difference between giving advice and holding space, being able to be an active listener, which is why we started our day one circle with this reminder of when you're active listening, you're noticing the color of their eyes. And of course, if you're on the phone, maybe you're imagining their facial expression, or you're looking at something that won't distract you but will hold your attention. You're constantly coming back to presence. Because we all need this radical space held for us, don't we? I mean, as a coach, that's where I see the biggest shifts. I mean, I just got off a client session where she was like, all I needed was to say that out loud to someone and for them to hear it. It's not about what I'm doing as a coach. It's about the presence and the space I'm bringing. And it's the same in your friendships, in your family relationships, relationships with your children. Children are like the best at holding us accountable to presence. The relationships with your clients, with your boss, with anyone in your life, it all comes back to what is the quality of space being held. You can be so much more efficient when you're holding that present space. So where does that start? It starts in the body. It starts in presence and in returning again and again and again. Tara Brach says the spiritual life is a process of forgetting and remembering. How can you be reminded to come back, and that it's safe to do so? Jennifer, I love that, asking if you want my advice or witnessing. I've always assumed if someone is talking to me, they want to hear my opinion. Yes, Jennifer, you are not alone in that. You are not alone in that. And how does it feel when you show up to a friend needing them to hold space and their response is, well, you know what you should do? You should follow these 5 steps and do exactly what I did and get to this conclusion. Like, how does that feel? We feel rushed. We feel sort of brushed aside. We feel unworthy. We feel that we're a burden. We feel that we're a problem, that we're coming to this person to have all the answers. No, luckily that's usually not what we're really after, which is good news for all of our friends, all of our family, all of our therapists and coaches. What we are after so often is a listening ear and a present partner. Yes, Marcia, witnessing. To me, witnessing is listening from an embodied, present space, a space of resource, like you've done or they've done their inner resourcing to be here now with you. They're not distracted. They're not thinking about the next thing they're going to say. They're not strategizing some way that they can help you. They're purely present. And they're obviously here. Hi, Alina, welcome. It's so good to have you. Yeah, great question, Marcia. Witnessing can also be like being a mirror. So I founded a moon circle here in Albuquerque. Shout out to my moon sisters who are here with us. And one of the community agreements that we bring up every single time we gather, whether it's in person or virtually, is you are here to be a mirror. You are here to say, you can say, yeah, I've been there. Or like, I'm so sorry you're going through that. You can extend that empathy. But what isn't allowed is the fixing of like, this is what you should do. We don't use the you language, we use the I language. Like, in my experience, but only during certain times. And we have a lot of like rules around sharing and being witnessed and then having the time for crosstalk. And I think it's so important. Where else in our lives do we have that space held to just say whatever with no fear of repercussion, with no, chance of someone trying to insert themselves in our story, but then just sort of holding it and being like, yeah, you sharing that was impactful for you, and I trust that. That's why we do it, and that's where the healing happens. And that's why we're talking about authentic community weaving today. So get really used to noticing the difference there. And then just like yesterday talking about boundaries, I know I mentioned this, in community we have to know what we need and we have to ask for it. That's why the community agreements are huge. So we talked about all these boundaries, right, that we're setting, which is a huge part of community building, setting those firm boundaries. And asking for advice or asking for witnessing is a boundary, by the way, and calling someone or having someone call you and say, hey, I've only got an hour or I've only got 10 minutes. That's a boundary. You are allowed to set that boundary with people in your life because you have limits to how much space you can hold. You will increase your space by self-caring and by doing the practice of presencing and embodiment, but you'll still have limits to how much space you can hold. And that's okay, you're worthy of those limits, like we talked about yesterday. You're not going to be left alone for having those limits. And so knowing what we need and asking for it, you know? And what so many themes I was seeing today in the Facebook group was this theme of, I know this is a hard spot for me, the asking for help, but I still don't know who I'm going to ask or what I'm going to ask. And like, I get that. I totally feel that. And I identify with that. And so a couple of weeks ago, I was feeling really, really low. Like winter was setting in, you know, this was even before the time change, I think. The darkness was coming and I knew it was going to be a hard winter because I'm affected by seasonal depression and like not getting to go home for the holidays and having like our numbers exponentially increase, our COVID numbers here in New Mexico. It was just all a lot. And I was feeling really unwell, like emotionally, mentally. And for the first time in my life, I sent a message to everyone in my family, all of my closest friends. I like put into practice what I preach. And I said, I'm not doing so well. Could you maybe check in on me more often? Could you just make it a habit of reaching out to me? And my sister Holly said that we have to remember to check on our friends that are doing well, our strong friends. And it's so true. That's what this is about, is like the friends in your life, or maybe you, who put up that like strong front of, I've got my shit together, you know? So often they're the ones that need this the most, need these reminders, need checking in on. But instead of putting that burden on your friends and family to kind of assume and remember, ask them for it. Be upfront, be blunt. And I know there's a fear of like, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to scare them. That was my big thing, was like, I don't want to scare anyone if there's not something serious happening. But it's like, do you want it to get to that point where the serious thing is happening? And then have them be like, why didn't you tell me? So it's really, really important. I want us all to take stock and get really specific of like, when I need someone to hold space for me, this is what it feels like in my body. This is what it feels like in my mind. This is what it feels like in my heart. And these are the people I'm going to reach out to. You can even let them know during the good times. Okay, you're on my list. You're in my inner circle of people that I'm going to reach out to when I need support. And maybe that support just looks like, can you just check in on me because I'm not doing well? Or just saying, I'm not doing well. You know, I think a language I used was, I need to be held accountable around my own mental health. And this is really hard. You can say that too. This is really hard for me. And I guarantee, like most of the time, those people are gonna be like, yeah, I get that. I understand. I see you, I witness you, because guess what? We are more alike than we are different. You know, regardless of what social media wants us to believe, or our political climate will have us believe, we are more alike than we are different. Every single one of us is gonna lose people they love. Every single one of us is gonna go through challenges in life, and it's going to feel very similar, so you can count on that. Marsha, what do you mean by holding space? Great question. It's similar to witnessing that I was mentioning, Marsha. Witnessing through the body, through the present moment, no distractions, total focus. In my experience, always from a place of love and compassion, a very resourced place. great question. I hope that helps to answer it. Claire, I like Reddit. It's anonymous, not tied to a larger account. In today's day and age, so much of what we say is just on the record and potentially a matter of public record. Hard to be authentic in online spaces. Even Zoom calls are recorded. That's a good point, Claire. That's a really good point. Shows it's difficult to ask for help. Last month I decided to be upfront and ask some neighbors if any of them could help me lift a chair into my truck. A neighbor helped me. I normally never get help from anyone. I always help others. It felt good to accept help. I'm so proud of you. Shows I know just this week you were helping some people in your life. You are such a helper and a doer. So the fact that you were upfront and asked people to help you is huge. Well done. Lacey, totally agree, Claire. I like Reddit for things that are hard to share. I feel like be authentic because it's anonymous. I didn't even know about this. I don't use Reddit really, other than to like look at funny, ridiculous videos. That's really interesting. The anonymity that brings to this conversation. So interesting. Yes, dear ones. Thank you for sharing. All right, asking for help, you know? Let's get into what it's about. So, neurobiologically, just kidding, nerd glasses on. So, I really came into meditation through this Buddhist lineage of insight meditation, and specifically my teacher, Tara Brach, who I talk about all the time. She's a Buddhist psychologist and an evolutionary psychologist. And it really was the portal for me to access presence and self-compassion because it was rooted in, to me, very real things, science, data. It felt very safe and comforting to know that, like, I'm just learning about my brain chemistry. That was actually my kind of into a very spiritual dimension that I never expected. Very, very interesting. I'm also like a mystic and was raised Christian. So the spiritual background was there, but the science and the data really helped me, I think, feel safe and feel like, oh, this is rooted in something I can touch and I am a part of. I don't know if that resonates with anyone. But for me, learning about our limbic system, our nervous system, and the brain's evolution opened so many doors for self-compassion. And I'm going to teach you just a little bit about it tonight for those who might be new. So let's start with the brain. So our human brain, you know, is not completely evolved. They're saying there's so much potential even now for us to go further with it, but we've come a long way. So neuroscientists call the very, very center of the brain the reptilian brain. And then we have the more evolved brain on top of that, which is often referred to as the mammalian brain, that when we became mammal. And then on top of that is the human, the most evolved part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is right here in the front. And basically, the reptilian brain is the part responsible for the freeze response in the nervous system. So we have flight, fight, freeze, right? So freeze, just like a reptile will roll over and play dead. We still have that response locked into our nervous system from way, 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 way back. And it's not super effective in real life, but it is something that helped us in the past and could still help, maybe potentially now, but it's usually pretty ineffective. But it's that really deep depressive state when you feel frozen in your body, when you don't have a lot of relationality, you don't have a lot of awareness or sensation in the body. Maybe you're protecting your heart like we talked about. It's a very depressed state, to be honest. And it doesn't have access to the prefrontal cortex, which is the most wise, most compassionate, more evolved, higher part of ourselves. The mammalian brain in the middle is the part connected to the limbic system. So we have this fight or flight response in our nervous system. So we either, tense all of our muscles to punch someone out, or to flee and run away, just like the puma would run away from the tiger or whatever animals in that climate. I don't even freaking know. Our heart starts pounding, our muscles tense, our breath picks up. We want to, lighten our bowels and our bladder in order to be light and run away from the danger. And this obviously has a lot of benefits. It's how we got to where we are. It's how our ancestors brought us to our current stage of evolution. And it's beautiful. But it freaking sucks sometimes to be a human with this nervous system. Can I get an amen? Like, we perceive threats. I think we talked about this week. We perceive threats that really aren't life or death, as though they are life or death. Which means we can get an email from our boss and think that we're dying. And we have the same nervous system response. Meanwhile, we also luckily have access to the prefrontal cortex, the most evolved part of our human brain, which is sort of like the downward slope of energy. So if the upward energy is the energy of fight, flight, freeze, activation, quite a bit of suffering to be experienced in the body, the prefrontal cortex helps us kind of come back down. We make sense of it, we make meaning of it, we can tell ourselves, oh, this isn't actually life or death. We can regulate, right? We can regulate our own nervous systems. And sometimes this happens naturally, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we flip our lid and we can't access this part of our brain because we've been so hijacked. And that's why I want us to become really aware of the strategies to bring us back to parasympathetic nervous system state, which is like the breath work we've been practicing in the mornings, the tapping. Who enjoyed the tapping? The embodiment stuff, the meditation, the mantras, the bringing the hands to the heart. We can reverse engineer. And we know this through yoga and meditation. But this is so much of the work I do is helping my clients get really practiced at, okay, I'm hijacked. This is the story I'm telling myself. I can reverse engineer. I can do these embodiment practices to bring myself to a regulated state. And what a beautiful act of self-compassion and empowerment. Like, you have everything you need right here. Everything you need. It's so beautiful. So this is the neurobiology, Luckily, we can also have gratitude for the lesser of all parts of the brain. We can say, thank you for trying to help me, Thank you. I don't have to tense up and be so hard. I can actually let my higher self take the reins and soften. And it's so counterintuitive because everything within you wants to tense and contract and run and flee or freeze. But the more evolved, the higher self knows the truth, which is that through softening, we actually avoid more stress-related diseases. We avoid inflammation and disease. We avoid early death, which so much of the developed world is facing because of these modern stressors. Only when we regulate. Yeah, I'm talking about polyvagal theory. Absolutely, Micah. 1000%. All right. Yeah. A whole lot of research on the reptilian brain and trial ball, says Lacey. Oh, I'd love to talk to you about that. That's so interesting. Micah, a teacher I'm working with, says we go back to flight, fight, freeze, fawn, dissociate because they provide us with either safety, dignity, or belonging. But none can give us all three. That really helped me to keep in mind, what is the response providing me, but what is it costing me? Absolutely. Ooh, safety, dignity, and belonging. That's so interesting, Micah. Yeah, absolutely. And bringing in the safety, it's what those lesser evolved parts think is safe, but it can actually create more dis-ease in the long term. So in my point of view, it's like choosing to come at it from the higher self, from the more evolved prefrontal cortex, and choosing to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. and reverse engineering that, because we know in the long term, regulation is the healthiest, best, wisest, most compassionate outcome for ourselves and our communities. And I'm going to bring it back to communities. But this has helped me soften having gratitude and saying, I'll take it from here to the activated nervous system. And I want you to get comfortable with practicing that. You can notice, oh, I'm in fight, flight, freeze. Thank you for trying to save me. Thank you for every ancestor who brought me to this state. And I recognize there's a space between my activation and my reaction. And I choose regulation. And have compassion when you don't. Because it's actually quite natural. And it all belongs. Beautiful. So this is a huge reason that we harden. Some other reasons, so we've got the neurobiology, then we've got social constructs. Yay, they're back. All the archetypes and isms that we've been talking about this week. Oh my God, I'm not going to get into it too much, don't worry, but I think the biggest one here is the internalized capitalism, which really makes us believe that we have to do it all on our own. We have to do it all on our own. You know, to do love on our own. And sometimes I get mad about self-care because I'm like, is this self-care trend just a capitalist construct? Like, oh, you actually can't rely on community, so you have to care for yourself. And here's a million products you have to buy in order to do it. You know? Here are all the ways you can spend your money to get to worthiness. And then you'll belong. It reminds me of this episode of Frasier. I don't know if you guys like that show, but there's an episode where Miles and Frasier want to get into an exclusive club, and they finally get in. They like pay their way, they hustle their buns off to get accepted into this private club. And then there's like a silver door in the club. I don't remember the details exactly. And like a velvet rope, and they're like, we have to get in. Like, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's a very VIP area. And they're like, oh my God, we have to get in. They finally get in there, and then there's a gold door, you know, even more exclusivity. And so then they pay even more. There's a platinum door. It goes on and on and on. But this is internalized capitalism when it comes to belonging. The belief that we have to pay money or hustle for our worthiness and belonging. And it's bullshit. We have got to unsubscribe from these toxic, harmful stories. And we will forget. We will have to remember. It's a journey. It's a lifelong freaking journey, y'all. So that's what internalized capitalism does for us. And rugged individualism, which America was freaking built on. Brene Brown said recently in her podcast, she was like, if we get COVID, meaning her and her family, she was like, we are all going to die of rugged individualism because we're not going to ask for help. We're not going to get help. And that really struck me. So I was like, yeah, that's what so many people are dying of. Maybe not with COVID, but with just loneliness, or, you know, I'll heal on my own, or, you know, I'll get to it. I don't need anyone. I don't need doctors, or I don't need, you know, the support. I can do it all. I can do it all. How many times is that the cause of death? You know? And what a waste. What a freaking waste. We were never meant to do it on our own, dear ones. We're pack animals. And I really want us to lean into our need for community as sacred, as beautiful, as worthy, as belonging. Because guess what? That's how we evolved. You know, we have a super long gestation period, and then we come out the womb and we're just like helpful. Or helpless. Not helpful. Definitely not helpful. Newborn babies, oh my god. Is there a more helpless creature? Like, horses come out walking. You know what I'm saying? We are not a horse. We freaking need people. We need community. This is like this is the most human part of being human. I really do feel this. So why do we have so much shame around it? Why do we have so much shame around our loneliness? It's because we so desperately long to belong that we have internalized our loneliness as worthlessness. It's like the thing we want the most, so it's the most tender and the most difficult to reveal. We talked about this, saying I'm lonely is like the most difficult phrase in the English language. Lacey, my fiance thinks you're awesome. Not actively watching, but thinks your voice is soothing, and every now and then you throw out a fucker blushing. That's awesome, Lacey. I love that so much. Shows it was helpful I came out jogging. I was helpful I came out jogging. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. But we have these roles thrust upon us, right? Like, oh, that's your worth, is being helpful. That's your worth. Yeah, it's super interesting. And then what happens when we need help? You know, we're so identified with it that we think we're worthless, we're shameful, we'll never belong. I really believe that is every human's core fear. Core fear. It's not death. It's not belonging. That's the core fear. And they're inextricably linked, right? Because evolutionarily, the herd, the pack, the community, the circle was where it was safe. So like, yeah, if you don't have that, if you're in an isolating culture and you don't have that, then you think you're gonna die on some level or live an unfulfilled life as well. But these two are linked subconsciously for all time, for all humans. Like, we have to have so much fucking compassion for ourselves. Oh my gosh, why would you ever judge yourself for being lonely? Why would you ever judge yourself for needing human contact and connection and touch? Like, it is not your fault you're in this culture. This was not your choice. Like, we're living alone at like skyrocketing rates. People are separated from their families and their friends. One of the costs of globalization, right? I'm definitely experiencing that. We're living in the age of loneliness. We're living in it. So what is our choice? This is what's happening to us. What is our reaction to it? For me, I'm gonna choose to be courageous and vulnerable. I'm gonna choose to start moon circles and ask for what I need and demand my needs in my marriage, in my friendships, in my family, in my community. And I'm gonna give people what they need. That's my choice. It's a scary, soft, vulnerable place to live, but I guarantee it is better than rugged individualism trying to keep you warm at night. You know, it is better for people to see you warts and all than to show this fake shiny exterior that doesn't let anyone in. Absolutely. Interpreting loneliness as worthlessness. Yes, Micah. Oof, indeed. On some subconscious level, I think we're doing that. And now with COVID, of course, so many of us are doing it more than ever before. You are worthy. You belong. You belong in this community. You belong in this world. You belong in the space you're taking up. You're here. That's proof enough. Begin to come home to yourself. That's what you're really longing for. So often in all of the desires for partnership, for, certain type of friends, certain type of look to our Instagram with all the group pictures and all of this noise and distraction is really a symptom of wanting to belong to ourselves. The words that you long to hear from another, whether it's a partner, a soulmate, a friend, a family member, they're words that you need to hear from yourself. And you can say them to yourself. You have that permission to put your hands on your body, to hold space for yourself, and to frickin' say those words. We all need to be doing this. This is radical, hard, difficult work. Are you up for it? It's changed my life. It is changing my life. All right. So I'm going to tell a really short story about Womanifestation. So Womanifestation is law of attraction combined with divine feminine principles, which y'all know I'm all about. And really the overarching divine feminine principle here is courageous vulnerability, which I talk about a lot. So we used to think courage meant the absence of fear, but it actually means being soft in the face of fear. And being authentic and genuine. So about 2 years ago, I moved to New Mexico, and I had previously lived in Washington, D.C., and a friend there invited me to her moon circle, which was a gathering of women who got together under the full moon every month and did ritual, shared their story, shared their intentions, received witnessing and love from each other, and then went home and went about their married life. And I was never able to join. And I deeply wanted to. I remember when she first explained it to me, I was like, oh, it was just a full body yes. Like, that's what I've been waiting for. And I truly do believe that revillaging or finding my village is my purpose. I really do believe that. And so I moved to New Mexico and I was like, oh, I'm going to find all the moon circles. I'm just going to go to them. I'm going to be held in them. And I got here and I got on the interwebs and I got on the meetups and there was nothing. There was nothing in Albuquerque. And I was like, oh, woe is me. I will never belong. I missed my window of belonging. All the stories began. I'll never be worthy. I'll never have that community of women around me that I know is out there and they're all just getting together and it's all like the things that I want. And then I just had a realization. I was like, Ellen, if this is something you long for so much that your husband comes home from work and you're just crying in a ball on your yoga mat, then chances are other women want this too. Chances are you're not the only one. And if you had the courage to start it, if you build it, they will come. The worst thing I realized that could happen would be I would start a meetup group and no one would join. I was like, I can handle that. Even if one person joins, that's one person who agrees with what I'm looking for. Those community agreements, that intention, that energetic boomerang, siren's call. I called it my Womanifesto. And I posted it. And within like a day, we had over 40 members. Today we have over 100 members. And at that very first gathering, I looked around me into the eyes of these strangers who are now my sisters, filled with tears, all of our eyes, because the longing, I was not alone in my longing, even though my culture And everything made me feel like it was shameful. I wasn't worthy. I can't ask for that. Me being with, my husband should be enough. Or me having, a couple friends. Or being from a good family, that should all be enough. But no, I listened to that whisper of my longing. I put it out there. And it's the best decision I ever made. It's been such a beautiful journey. And I realized that my desire for it was proof that it was worthy. Your longings belong. When you have the courage, and I mean the fucking courage, to soften your heart, to remove the armor, and to ask it what it really longs for, it will show you the way. And when you follow your heart, as cheesy as it sounds, when you follow your soft heart, you will find your community. Because you will have asked for what you need. You will have communicated it from a place of just authentic vulnerability. On that floor, proverbial floor, on your yoga mat, crying in a ball. Sometimes this is how we have to show up. Your longing is what the world needs. They're all waiting. They're all waiting for you to speak it aloud, to ask for support. I really think on the other side of our softened heart lie every wild desire and the manifestation of it, the getting of it, the claiming of it. And through that experience, I was so reminded that self-care, self-compassion, self-love doesn't really add up to much if it's not done with the intention of eventually finding that village, finding that community, and being held in my authentic truth and holding others in theirs. Claire. Oh, I missed a few comments. Marcia, finding my village speaks to me. It's part of my current search. Oh, yes, Marcia, I'm so interested in this. Well done you for putting the search out there. Claire, I just put my hand on my heart and said 10 things I needed to hear. Oh, we want to hear them. What are some of them? Beautiful. Shows before joining the Moon Group, I had not had any close contact with others since leaving BC in 2004. Precious one. You belong. I'm so glad you're part of that community. I'm so, so glad. We are all capable. We are all capable and worthy. And Luna's whining. I apologize, my dog. Luna, named for my moon circle and the moon. Beautiful ones. I feel like I ranted and I loved it. I have a replay of my How to Start a Moon Circle webinar. If you go to Luminous Leanings and just search Moon Circle, it's a free replay. If anyone is like, what the hell is a moon circle? Go watch it and start a moon circle and tell me, because it really does have the power to change the world. Also read The Millionth Circle by Jean Shenanda Bolen. That changed my life, that book. Yes, Luna's asking for what she needs, and all she ever needs, let me freaking tell you, is my attention, my love. So, I've rambled a bit, but yeah. In Become Your Own Soulmate, which, just a reminder, doors close Sunday at midnight, in this 12-week coaching program, the only way to work with me long term. Week 5, we create an emergency resource list, and I really hold my clients accountable to come up with this inner circle and to prep them for when they're going to need them. Whether that's establishing contact if you haven't had contact for a while with these people that you're going to reach out to, on a good day, and just say, let's reconnect, so you don't have to do that emotional labor when you actually need your community, or writing those community agreements, getting clear on what authentic friendship looks like for you, and setting those boundaries in your relationships so that you're getting what you need, so that you're identifying what you need and asking for it. Become Your Own Soulmate, we absolutely cover community in a big way. And in the not so distant future, there will be a community element inside of this program. So right now it exists as a one-on-one program, but really soon it's going to have a community element, and all the alums who have taken this incredible journey with me are going to come into this space if they choose and be a mentor, be a big sister, and just be another one in this circle of equals as I am in this journey with you. To help each other, to witness each other, to say, oh yeah, that week I also went through this thing. So I'm really excited about that. And I hope you'll claim your $100 off either by getting on the wait list for 2021 or joining me next week. We kick off this 12-week journey together. It'll never be this rate again. Rates are going to be increasing next round. And so I really hope you're there. I wish I had more spots because I want you all in there. But it's first come, first serve. So I hope that you will join me on that journey. I'll share the link again. I thought I had the link here to share. But if you just go to luminousleanings.com, that's my website, go to work with me, and there's a Become Your Own Soulmate part of my menu, and I'll share the link. It's such a fun journey. Oh, difficult but fun. All right, beautiful ones. Thank you for being with me live or watching the replay. And I hope to circle with you in our last Zoom call tomorrow at this time at 7 Eastern. Save yourself a couple hours. We're tacking on a dance party. If you haven't added to our Spotify playlist, it's a collaborative playlist. I'll share the link again in the replay. And yeah, we can turn our cameras off. We can turn our camera. We're just going to dance. We're going to break it down. We're going to celebrate this incredible week. We're going to feel what embodied resilience feels like. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited for tomorrow. I'm really sad that tomorrow's day 5, but I'm excited because it's aware. That's the theme for tomorrow. And awareness is the place from which we resource in our bodies, in our presence, in our self-compassion, through our awareness, only through accepting what is. So it's going to be a good one. Thanks for showing up and being an active, engaged part of this community. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Sending so much love. Care for yourself tonight. Thank you so much, Claire, for those kind words. I do appreciate it.